equity in the transaction, and probably treat your investors well, let them know what's going on, but also treat your bankers extremely well, because your bankers can decide whether they're going to pull the plug or not. So there were many lessons learned. I think one of the lessons we've all learned is that the world does come back, and if you're sensible in pricing something, you buy something reasonable at a reasonable price, and ultimately the economy goes against you, you can still make it work. Now, not every deal was saved, but many of the largest deals done at the time of the market decline actually turned out to be reasonable deals, not great, but reasonable.
So, any echoes from that period in the situation we see today?
Today, we have recessions in the United States on average every 7 years since World War II. We're now 10 years into a growth cycle. So at some point, the economy may go down. I don't know when it will be, and I don't like to use the R word. When I worked at the White House, we had an inflation advisor named Fred Kahn, and he said publicly that we were going into recession in 1980. Now, Carter called him into the Oval Office and said, look, I'm running for re-election. Don't use the R word. It scares people. And Fred Kahn said, what can I say? I believe this. He said, just don't use the R word. From then on, Fred Kahn would go out and say, I think we're heading into a banana. And he used the word banana instead of recession, and no one reporter would want to say Carter's inflation advisor thinks we're heading into banana, so they kind of left him alone. I don't think we're heading into a banana necessarily, but at some point the economy will slow down. There's no evidence of it today, and I think probably we're in reasonable shape this year. I can't predict too far in advance, but at some point when the economy does slow down, we will probably have some companies in stress. What we've learned is if you buy the companies in stress at good discounts, you can make a fair amount of money. But the major change between the last time and this time is that before, when the Great Recession happened, about 30% of the debt in buyouts was so-called covenant light, which means it's hard to default. Now it's about 90%. So it's harder to default than it was before. We've also learned that people are paying high prices now. It used to be before the Great Recession, you might buy a company for, let's say, 8 or 9 times cash flow. Now, I would say more typical is 13 or 14 times cash flow. So you're paying higher prices. Now, it's not as bad as it sounds because investors are willing to accept lower rates of return. Private equity basically got where it is by getting people net internal rates of return around 20%. Then it's gone down a bit now, but I'd say today most investors in private equity, if they get 13, 14, 15% net returns after 3 or 4 years, are probably okay with that. And so you can pay a little bit more, prices can come down a bit, and you can still do okay.
So, you're famously